There's this profound tension at the very heart of medicine. It's this constant battle between the sacred duty to heal and the all too human temptation of hubris, of arrogance. Today, we're diving into that complex and honestly often treacherous role of the physician in that whole journey from being sick to getting well. This quote from Oliver Wendell Holmes just nails it, doesn't it? It gets right to the core of the power dynamic. When someone is desperate, truly desperate for their health, they will do anything. And that desperation, well, it hands the physician an immense amount of authority. The patient's willingness to endure just about anything creates this incredibly dangerous temptation for the doctor, the power to do almost anything to them.
So here's our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start by looking into the secret, sometimes hidden motives that can drive a healer. Then we'll see how those good intentions can go horribly wrong and lead to cruel cures. We'll pinpoint the main problem, the sin of presumptuousness. After that, we'll put science and self-deception head to head. And finally, we'll explore a much better way to diagnose and to heal.
Okay, so let's ask the big question. Why does someone really become a doctor? I think we all like to imagine it's this purely heroic, selfless calling. But the truth? Well, the truth is usually a whole lot more complicated. The thing is, that desire to heal is rarely just a simple, pure impulse. The role itself is like a minefield of different motivations. You've got temptations for power, these deep, unconscious needs, and of course, the immense weight of medical tradition and fads. I mean, just look at this spectrum of motives. It's wild, right? On one end, you've got that noble, almost maternal instinct to comfort someone who's sick, but living right alongside that can be a desire to control fate, a powerful need for respect, and even some darker impulses, like the impulse to inflict pain, or just to get really, really rich. And a single doctor can be driven by a mix of all of these at the same time. So what happens when these incredibly powerful motives, especially that raw desire to just do something, go completely unchecked by humility and science? Well, the results can be catastrophic. And this brings us to a key term. It's a fantastic one. Furor therapeuticus. It's Latin for the rage to cure. It isn't just a desire to help. No, it's an overwhelming, almost frantic compulsion to intervene, to act, to slap on a treatment, any treatment, often with absolutely disastrous results. For a perfect, if horrifying example, let's go back to 1685. King Charles II of England falls ill, and the best, most respected doctors of his day unleash a perfect storm of furor therapeutics right on top of him. And just look at this partial list of what they did to him. Multiple bloodlettings, enemas with rock salt and cinnamon. They literally applied a plaster made of pigeon dung to his feet. They even gave him 40 drops of an extract from a human skull. In their rage to cure, his doctors did everything they could think of, and in doing so, they basically tortured the king to death. Now, you might be thinking, okay, that was the 1600s, things were crazy back then, but this isn't just an ancient history problem. Consider Dr. Benjamin Rush, a signer of the Declaration of Independence, a founder of American psychiatry. He was utterly convinced that pretty much all diseases came from one single thing, vascular tension. And his one-size-fits-all cure was to remove huge quantities of blood, a practice that almost certainly killed many of his patients. So what's the common thread here? What connects the doctors treating a 17th century king with an 18th century American founding father? It's the exact same underlying issue. It's a failure of character. It's a specific kind of arrogance. The writer John Bunyan really hit the nail on the head. He saw the temptation perfectly. You don't get famous with simple, careful, quiet medicine. Fame, prestige, that comes from great and desperate cures. And that creates this powerful pull for doctors to overreach, to try something spectacular instead of just doing what's prudent and right. And that right there is the definition of hubris. It's the sin of presumptuousness. It's what happens when a doctor completely abandons the number one most important principle of science, humility. The humility to admit, I don't know, and the humility to constantly question whether your treatments are actually helping or hurting. So this whole dilemma really forces every doctor to make a fundamental choice. You can think of it like a fork in the road, and it's a choice between two completely opposite mindsets, the mindset of the scientist and the mindset of the charlatan. And the contrast couldn't be more stark. The charlatan, they prioritize the performance of healing, the appearance of doing something, over the actual truth. They know that deep down, patients often want to be deceived into feeling better. But the scientist? They believe truth is more important than anything, and that demands constant self-criticism, intellectual honesty, even when the truth is uncomfortable, like realizing your treatment did absolutely nothing. And this, right here, is the absolute key. The true scientist-physician is haunted by this question. Did my patient get better because of what I did, or was it in spite of what I did? Did they get better just by coincidence, or was it simply nature taking its course? Resisting that powerful urge to take all the credit, that is the ultimate act of scientific discipline. Okay, so this idea of scientific humility sounds good, but what does it actually look like in the real world? Let's compare two very, very different ways of doing a psychiatric interview. First up, the old way. And honestly, calling this an interview is generous. It's an interrogation. The questions are aggressive, they're leading, don't lie to me. You see, the goal here isn't to understand the patient. The goal is to confirm a diagnosis the doctor already has in their head and to justify commitment as fast as possible. It is a pure exercise in power, not in healing. Now, compare that to this, the scientific way. The entire tone, the whole vibe is completely different, isn't it? It's not an accusation, it's an invitation. It replaces that arrogance of the interrogator with the humility of a helper. Instead of trying to trap the patient, the goal is to build a partnership, to actually try and understand their world. So you see, this better approach isn't just about being nice. It's a systematic process. It starts by building a compassionate relationship. And from that foundation of trust, the doctor can then objectively study the patient's condition. And finally, and this is key, they work together to find a solution. It's collaboration, not interrogation. And all of this brings us back to the central, most difficult question of all. We know patients often want and need a doctor who seems totally confident, who projects this unwavering certainty. So does the humility that true science demands, that constant self-doubt, that ruthless intellectual honesty, does it actually get in the way of being an effective doctor? That is the doctor's ultimate dilemma.